Hi everyone, this is Stan, your favorite Polish Taiwan YouTuber. Hope you're all having a great day. Welcome to today's show. Today let's discuss Emperor Xi's strategic clarity in invading Taiwan. We often discuss the United States' strategic attitude towards Taiwan, both the strategic clarity and ambiguity. But we seldomly talk about the CCP's recent strategic clarity in its intention to invade Taiwan. In the past, the Chinese Communist Party pretended to be a cuddly panda, while using economic and trade measures, as well as cultural and educational means to infiltrate the world and Taiwan. At the same time, the CCP never stopped suppressing Taiwan internationally, intending to make Taiwan more dependent on China through its double-faced strategy and ambiguous tactics. At that time, even if Taiwan protested against this, their country has been seen in the international community as a troublemaker. However, the appeasement era, when all the Western countries have been making big profits by following the CCP, has basically come to an end. It basically is the Xi Jinping regime that ended the era of appeasement through its wolf warrior diplomacy or thug diplomacy. Although Xi Jinping has always claimed that the United States is afraid of China's rise, in reality, the United States is concerned about the rise of the global authoritarianism cultivated by the CCP. From the US-China trade war that started in 2018, the Hong Kong anti-extradition bill protests in 2019, the outbreak of COVID-19 that the CCP concealed, to the year 2023, the 5-year rule of the Xi Jinping regime has caused internal turmoil in China due to its various failed policies. And to solve its problems, the CCP did what they always do, simply manipulate the public opinion to make everyone think all problems come from the United States and other democratic countries, and violently suppress any voices of doubt. Its aggression towards Taiwan has also shifted towards strategic clarity, rather than buying Taiwan, to tricking Taiwan into unification. The methods of deceiving Taiwan have gradually become more extreme, such as arbitrarily prohibiting the import of Taiwanese agricultural products under the pretext of violating trade rules, saying that pests and diseases have been found in their agricultural products, even if there have been none. The purpose of it is to cause heavy losses for the Taiwanese farmers. Taiwanese people are actually aware of the CCP's political manipulation, but because they cannot seek compensation from the CCP, who is a bully, not acting under the international trade rules, some irrational people will even turn to blame the Taiwanese government instead. Some politically naive people also believe that as long as a party that does not provoke the CCP or is liked by the CCP is elected as the ruling party, they can return to the relatively stable period of the CCP attempting to buy Taiwan and do business well and make money. Most Taiwanese people actually do not like the CCP, let alone the Xi Jinping regime, but they also believe that the pro-CCP party in power will actually be moderate, more acceptable to the CCP. They don't really think that the so-called peaceful reunification agreement will actually be signed, meaning that Taiwan would be swallowed by China. And some of those naive folks think that the pro-CCP parties are there only to deceive the CCP. They also don't believe that the pro-CCP politicians will dare to really sell out Taiwan. Or if we talk about more extreme examples, some people still believe that even if Taiwan is peacefully reunified, it can still maintain its self-rule under the one country, two systems. But believe me, Xi Jinping is not an idiot. He will use the naive ideas of the Taiwanese people for his own benefit. It's foolish to believe otherwise. Playing the economic card is always the most effective method in politics and international relations. In order to deceive Taiwan, as always, the Chinese Communist Party recently used the so-called trade barrier investigation as an excuse to unilaterally impose sanctions on 2,455 products that have been sold to China before undergoing investigation and litigation by the World Trade Organization. The range of affected industries is very broad, including agricultural products as well as mining, chemical and textile products. That's interesting. The investigation period can be extended until January 12, 2024 under special circumstances. This deadline happens to be the day before Taiwan's presidential election on January 13, 2024. This is an equivalent to attempting to interfere with the Taiwanese elections. It doesn't only allow the CCP resonators in Taiwan to have more tools to influence the public opinion, but it also intends to create a negative impression of the current Taiwanese government among the voters. At the same time, the CCP, together with its resonators and pro-China politicians in Taiwan, is creating panic in the media as Taiwan's trade and economy is being blocked by China. In addition, the 3-year pandemic and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, as well as global inflation, have put pressure on Taiwanese as the costs of living rise, forcing Taiwanese people to worry about the economy and threats to the national security. And what the CCP wants is to make Taiwanese people compromise on its sovereignty. On the diplomatic front, although the CCP CCP has been continuously stealing Taiwan's diplomatic allies during the past few decades. Recently, under the Xi Jinping regime, they have completely stopped even pretending that they are acting through the means of diplomacy and resorted to throwing money around to buy Taiwan's allies in Central and South America as well as in the Pacific, such as Nicaragua, Honduras, and the Solomon Islands. Not only is this behavior unfair, but it also exports corruption and cultivates dictatorship in these countries. Moreover, they directly humiliate and provoke the United States during negotiation processes. For example, the US Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan last year, and more recently, when President Tsai Ing-wen visited the US, remember that both of those visits had nothing to do with China. The CCP not only sent paid Chinese trolls to protest in the United States, but also used this as an excuse to launch military exercises around Taiwan, gradually making military exercises routine. The CCP also collaborates with pro-China forces in Taiwan to create panic. They're trying to make Taiwan surrender to the CCP, which is the true meaning of the so-called unification. At the same time, during President Tsai's visit to the US, former President Ma Ying-jeou, who is very supportive of the Chinese dictatorship, visited China and made pro-CCP and anti-Japanese remarks during the visit. Recently, a pro-China writer in Taiwan even wrote an article in the Wall Street Journal arguing for fake neutrality, or to put it forward, surrender. The article's argument is completely in line with the narrative I told you about. The author believes that the Taiwanese government should engage with bully and try to ease the situation. The article directly cites that the ECFA signed by the pro-China party during their governance in 2010, which allowed Taiwanese agricultural products to be sold to China within few days. The article appeals entirely to emotional aspects, but it fails to mention the terrifying behavior of the CCP in manipulating the domestic politics and multiple attempts to interfere with the policies of the other countries through economic means. For example, when Lithuania and Czechia decided to deepen their ties with Taiwan because they're fed up with the CCP's brutal actions and irrationality, what did the CCP do? Started bullying Czechia and Lithuania. Do you remember that Taiwan's milkfish industry was hit by Chinese theft of technology, causing the entire industry to be under the threat of collapsing? At the same time, having ties with the CCP appeared to be benefiting Taiwan, but what the CCP do? They just stole the fish farming market, forcing the grouper prices to collapse in Taiwan. Grouper is a kind of fish that's very popular in Taiwan. And even the Taiwanese businessman who called the grouper king, Taikon Tsai, who once supported the ECFA and Ma Ying-jeou, later admitted that China is actually Taiwan's competitor in the grouper industry, and not a market or business opportunity for Taiwan. We can see from the above-mentioned events that Xi Jinping regime's aggression towards Taiwan is comprehensive, clear, and not caring about the possible costs and repercussions, which is exactly what the title Strategic Clarity of Invasion implies. Xi Jinping's authoritarian rule goes beyond the former collective authoritarian rule of the CCP. I believe that many Taiwanese friends have not yet realized it. On the one hand, Xi Jinping is tightening the rope on Taiwan, and on the other hand, he's eliminated all the forces who question his military hawkishness, such as the former political commissar of the PLA, National Defense University, General Liu Yazhou, who was recently rumored to have been kicked out of the party, got his position revoked, and sentenced to death. The Chinese military has also issued a notice to censor Liu Yazhou's books, newspaper articles, journals, speeches, and so on in March. Recently, CCP resonators in Taiwan have begun promoting a new discourse called the implementation of One China policy, abandoning the use of the 1992 consensus. They want to directly consider the Taiwan Strait and Taiwan as internal territories of China, and the CCP to normalize military exercises and arbitrarily establish no-fly zones to internalize or inlandize Taiwan's waters and airspace. Although the focus of the Chinese Communist Party's aggression is currently on Taiwan, it has always had a bigger goal, which is the United States. The Chinese Communist Party has always believed that the United States and its allies use the island chains in the Western Pacific to block China's strategic development, and Taiwan is located in the first island chain. From China's perspective, this deployment would limit the scope and ability of PLA's naval operations, prevent China from controlling peripheral maritime channels, and curb its ambition to control the high seas. Otherwise, Xi Jinping's great rise of China will be just an empty talk. At the same time, Xi Jinping is a dictator who advocates for the socialism with Chinese characteristics. If you're trying to enforce socialism, you have to actively dissociate yourself from the United States. Former China bureau chief of Nikkei Asia, Nakazawa Katsuji, published an article this week citing a retired senior Communist Party member who said that it was Xi Jinping who made the first key statement that led to the decoupling of the US and Chinese economy, even before he became the top leader of the Communist Party. In In fact, as early as November 2012, during the closed-door session of the 18th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, Xi Jinping raised concerns about the hijacking of China's economy by the United States in front of 3,000 members of the National People's Congress. He attributed the corruption of the Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army to the Western materialism brought about by Deng Xiaoping's economic reforms. Nakazova's article also mentioned that Xi's conclusion was that unless these problems were solved, the Communist Party's rule would be at risk. However, it is interesting to note that we all know that the corrupt structure of the Communist Party system was deeply rooted long before Mao Zedong's Yan'an period. It is the lack of self-regulation and supervision mechanisms in the one-party communist dictatorship that caused massive corruption in the system, just like in all communist parties actually. Therefore, when we consider all of the information above, we can see that those who believe that simply negotiating with the CCP can prevent the war from happening are making a huge mistake. And the pro-CCP politicians and sympathizers are only using people's naivety to further their personal interests, whether during the Taiwan's elections or in getting benefits from the CCP. Xi Jinping's ultimate goal is to disengage from the United States and ideally break through the island chain, creating a bipolar world similar to the Cold War era that we learned about in history books. Taiwan was not a member of the Iron Curtain countries in the past, while Poland was trapped behind the Iron Curtain for decades. Trust me, it's not something you would want to experience. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, please press like, subscribe and share. This is Stan. I see you in the next one. Bye bye!